Have you ever asked yourself, what makes someone a hero? Is it strength? Is it fame? Is it victory? Or is it something quieter? Something that doesn't wear medals or stand in the spotlight? We often picture heroes as the ones who win wars, save lives in dramatic moments, stand tall with flags and fireworks behind them. But maybe a hero is something else entirely. Maybe a hero is the one who chooses to carry pain so that others can feel peace. The one who holds the line, not for praise, but because their soul tells them some things are worth standing for. Maybe a hero is the person who wakes up every day and chooses love even when it hurts, who chooses duty even when it costs them everything. Maybe a hero isn't the one who charges forward. Maybe it's the one who stays, who sacrifices silently, who puts their own dreams aside so someone else can sleep safely at night. There's something sacred about those who give, not because they expect anything in return, but because they believe in something greater than themselves. Not everyone will understand that kind of strength. Not everyone will see it, but you know it when you feel it. You know it when you see someone who has given their life, not just in death, but in how they live, to protect, to serve, to love, to carry the burdens that others couldn't bear. That is a hero. And if that's you or someone you've loved, then this story is for you. Some people live their entire lives chasing applause. They move for recognition. They act for approval. They sacrifice only when someone is watching. But there's another kind of person, the kind who walks into fire not for medals, but for meaning, who gives without asking, who serves without needing a stage. These people don't wait for the world to notice. They don't need their names carved in stone. They give their lives piece by piece, day by day, to something greater than themselves. They protect, they endure, they rise, not for themselves, but for what they believe is worth protecting, even if it costs them everything. It may be a soldier on foreign soil, a nurse on the edge of burnout, a teacher who never gives up on a child, a parent who silently gives up their dreams for their family. They are everywhere, and yet they are often unseen. But make no mistake, they are heroes. And for people like that, there's one quote that doesn't just describe them, it immortalizes them. A hero is someone who has given his life to something bigger than himself. It's not always about dying. Sometimes it's about living with full awareness that every choice, every sacrifice is for something that transcends the self. That kind of life leaves a mark, not in stone, not on screens, but in the hearts of those who were protected, lifted, saved, even if they never knew the name of the one who stood in the gap. That's a hero, and the world is better because of them. Not everyone who gives their life wears a uniform. Not every hero stands beneath a spotlight. And yet, we've been taught to look for heroes in grand gestures, in victory speeches, dramatic rescues, cinematic moments, as if heroism only exists where there are crowds to cheer for it. But the truth is quieter, more humble, and far more human. The real heroes are often unseen. Their strength isn't forged in front of cameras, but in silent decisions, the kind made at kitchen tables, in hospital corridors, or on distant battlefields. Choices that no one applauds, but change everything. So let's look deeper. What is a hero, really? And what does it mean to give your life to something greater than yourself? 1. The myth and the truth about heroes. We've grown up believing that heroes are the ones who win, the ones who stand tall, fists raised, with the world cheering their names. In movies, they wear capes. In stories, they ride in at the last second to save the day. Strength, glory, recognition. That's what we associate with heroism. But that image is incomplete. Because real life rarely looks like a movie. In real life, The hero might be the one who walks away from the spotlight, who gives up their own path so someone else can find theirs, who sacrifices in silence, knowing they may never be thanked, who endures. Not to be admired, but because someone has to. True heroism isn't loud. It's not about applause. It's about commitment to a cause, to a person, to a purpose that outweighs your own comfort or gain. It's about choosing responsibility, even when it hurts, even when it costs you everything. So the next time you hear the word hero, don't just look up at the stage. Look around. Look behind the scenes. Look at the people who carry the world on their backs, not for praise, but because someone must. That is the kind of strength this quote speaks to. And it changes everything we thought we knew about what it means to live with purpose. 2. Everyday examples of quiet heroism. A hero isn't always wearing armor. Sometimes he's wearing a worn-out shirt and carrying tired eyes. Sometimes she's holding a child in one hand and her own broken dreams in the other. A hero might be the father who once dreamed of painting, but now spends his days working double shifts. Not because he gave up on art, but because he chose his children instead. He never stood on a stage. He never signed autographs, but he shows up every morning, rain or shine, so that his kids can sleep with full stomachs and warm hearts. And in that quiet, daily decision, he becomes something sacred. A hero might be the soldier who never made it home, not because he lost the fight, but because he stepped forward, so that others didn't have to. He didn't ask for glory. He didn't seek recognition. He simply believed that protecting his brothers in arms was worth more than his own safety. And with that belief, he wrote his name into the hearts of those who lived, because he chose not to run. A hero might be the daughter who puts her life on hold to take care of an aging parent, who wipes tears no one else sees, who whispers comfort at 2 a.m., who gives up her 20s so someone else can pass through their 80s with dignity. She doesn't get awards. She doesn't post about it. But what she gives is everything. And a hero might be you. The part of you that keeps showing up, even when you're exhausted. The part that forgives, when it would be easier to walk away. The part that loves, when your heart has been shattered more times than it can count. Because heroism isn't about being invincible. It's about being vulnerable, and still choosing to serve anyway. 3. Life lesson summary. So what makes someone a hero? Not the uniform, not the medals, not the recognition, but the willingness to give, to serve, to carry weight that was never theirs to begin with, and do it anyway. A hero is not the one who gets remembered. A hero is the one who makes sure something worth remembering continues to exist. They might not be in the headlines, they might never trend, but they leave fingerprints on the hearts they've touched, on the lives they've lifted, on the love they've poured out with no return. Being a hero isn't about having the power to change the world. It's about choosing to change someone's world, even if it costs you a part of your own. And in that choice, you become the reason someone else has a tomorrow. You become the bridge between pain and healing, between fear and safety, between despair and one more try. You don't have to be extraordinary to be a hero. You just have to be willing. Willing to love without applause, to give without guarantee, to stand firm in storms no one else sees, because you believe something bigger than yourself is worth protecting. That is the kind of hero the world needs most. And maybe, just maybe, you've already been that hero to someone, even if you've never heard it said out loud. Sometimes, the clearest way to understand a truth is to witness someone who lived it. You've heard the quote, "A hero is someone who has given his life to something bigger than himself." But what does that look like in real life? What kind of person walks away from comfort, from applause, from everything they've ever worked for, just to serve something greater? Let me tell you the story of someone who did exactly that. Not because he had to, but because his heart told him he couldn't live any other way. 1. Introducing Pat Tillman. His name was Pat Tillman. To most people in America, he was a star, a professional football player, a rising icon in the NFL. Tough, charismatic, unshakable on the field. At just 25 years old, he had it all. A multi-million-dollar contract, endorsement deals, a growing fan base, and a career most could only dream of. But Pat Tillman wasn't chasing fame. He played the game with passion, but never let it define him. He was thoughtful, quiet, a man who read philosophy in his spare time and questioned the world far more than he tried to impress it. And then came 9/11s. 2. The extraordinary decision. After the 11th of September, 2001, the world changed. So did Pat. He watched the towers fall like the rest of us. He felt the same heartbreak, the same confusion, the same rage. But he didn't just sit with those feelings. He didn't just talk about them. He acted. At the height of his career, with every reason to stay exactly where he was, Pat Tillman made a decision that stunned the nation. He walked away from fame, from fortune, from a life most would protect at all costs. He turned down a $3.6 million contract. He hung up his jersey, and he enlisted in the United States Army. No press conference, no spotlight, just conviction. When asked why, he didn't speak in slogans or polished words. He simply said, "I can't just sit there while others are out fighting for what I believe is right." It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about making a statement. It was about something much deeper, a sense of responsibility to something bigger than his career, bigger than his comfort, bigger than himself. He didn't go because he had to. He went because he couldn't not go. That kind of decision doesn't come from ego. It comes from soul. And once he made it, there was no turning back. Pat trained like any other soldier. No special treatment, no celebrity shield. He deployed to the front lines, side by side with men and women who didn't care about who he used to be, only about who he was when things got hard. And in those moments, he proved exactly who he was. Not a football player, but a man who gave his life to something far bigger than himself. 3. The defining quote. Some words are rehearsed, polished, written for effect, but some come straight from the soul, raw, quiet, and unforgettable. When the media finally caught wind of Pat Tillman's decision, everyone wanted a headline, a soundbite, a heroic statement. But Pat didn't give them any of that. No drama, no fanfare. He simply said, "I can't just sit there while others are out fighting for what I believe is right." One sentence, no more than that. But inside those words lived everything. A deep sense of duty, a refusal to be comfortable while others sacrificed, an unwillingness to watch from the sidelines, while others carried the burden of protecting what mattered most. He wasn't trying to inspire anyone. He wasn't trying to be a symbol. He was just being honest. Because for Pat, it wasn't about heroism. It was about integrity, living in alignment with what he believed, no matter what it cost. And that one sentence, that quiet confession, became a legacy, not because it was loud, but because it was true. 4. The sacrifice and the legacy. Pat Tillman didn't return home. In 2004, during a mission in Afghanistan, he was killed in action. Just 2 years after trading stadium lights for combat boots, the news sent shockwaves across the country. People struggled to understand how someone with everything to lose could walk so willingly into danger and never walk back out. There were headlines, tributes, tears, but beneath the noise was a quiet, unbearable truth. A man who had every reason to stay safe chose instead to step into the fire because he believed some things were more important than his own life. He didn't have to go. He chose to, and that choice cost him everything. But here's what's remarkable. What Pat gave up became something that can never be taken away. His story is not just about loss. It's about conviction, purpose, depth, and the kind of moral clarity so few ever dare to live with. He left behind more than a uniform. He left behind an idea that true greatness isn't measured by what you achieve, but by what you're willing to give. Today, his name lives on, not just in statues, not just in foundations, but in every person who hears his story and is reminded that they, too, can live for something bigger than themselves. Because that's what Pat Tillman did. He traded applause for silence, security for sacrifice, and in doing so, he became something far greater than an athlete, far greater than a soldier. He became a symbol of what it means to be fully, deeply, unshakably human. A man who proved with his life that a hero is not someone who seeks glory, but someone who answers the call when the world needs courage most. And because of that, his legacy will never die. We don't have to wear a uniform to be a hero. We don't have to carry a rifle, walk into battle, or face enemy fire. You don't have to leave your country, or stand in front of a crowd, or make the ultimate sacrifice to be remembered. Because sometimes, the most heroic acts happen in places no one ever sees. They happen at kitchen tables, in hospital rooms, on sleepless nights, in the quiet choices that no one applauds, but that make all the difference in someone else's life. You don't need to go to war to live for something bigger than yourself. You just need to choose love when anger is easier, to offer help when you have nothing left to give, to keep showing up when no one's saying thank you. Heroism isn't only found on distant front lines. Sometimes it's right here, in your own home, in your community, in your heart. Because the battlefield isn't always out there. Sometimes it's inside us. And still, we fight. A hero is the mother who puts her child's needs above her own, day after day. Not because she has to, but because her love doesn't know another way. A hero is the friend who stays up through the night, just to make sure someone doesn't fall apart in silence. A hero is the caregiver who holds trembling hands, who wipes away tears that aren't theirs, who carries pain they didn't cause because they choose compassion over comfort. A hero is the man who shows up to work with a broken heart, but still smiles for his kids when he walks through the door. A hero is the woman who forgives when she has every reason to stay angry, because peace matters more than pride. A hero is the sibling who sacrifices dreams to care for aging parents, the teacher who believes in the student no one else notices, the neighbor who checks in quietly, faithfully when others forget. A hero is the one who holds back their own pain so someone else can sleep peacefully, who absorbs the storm so others can walk through the day without fear, who carries invisible burdens and still chooses kindness. These are not grand gestures. They are small, daily choices, made in love, made in silence, made in moments where no one is looking, and yet they are what hold the world together. So maybe you'll never be given a medal. Maybe no one will ever say your name on a stage. Maybe you'll never be called hero out loud. But if you've ever chosen love over bitterness, if you've ever carried pain so someone else could feel peace, if you've ever put someone's well-being above your own comfort, then let me say it clearly. You are a hero. Because heroism isn't about how loud you are. It's about how deeply you give. It's about what you carry in silence. What you hold when no one else is willing to. It's about those small, invisible moments where you choose others. Not for recognition, but because it's simply who you are. And that, more than anything, is the kind of strength this world needs most. So the next time you doubt your worth, the next time you wonder if your sacrifices matter, remember this: heroes don't always wear armor. Sometimes they wear tired eyes, quiet smiles, and hearts that refuse to give up on others. That is a hero. And if no one else has told you this today, let me be the first. Thank you. If you've ever given a part of yourself so that someone else could have a little more peace, a little more safety, a little more light in their day, then this space was made for you. You don't need a title. You don't need applause. But if you've ever loved with your whole heart, sacrificed in silence, or carried something heavy without asking for anything in return, I want to invite you to leave a Q in the comments. Not as proof, but as a quiet tribute to the part of you that gave, even when it hurt. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you of someone you know, or someone you've been, then I hope you'll stay with us. Subscribe, not for content, but for connection, for stories that speak to the soul, for reminders that the world still holds quiet courage, quiet love, quiet heroes. Like you. You are seen. You are remembered. You are part of something greater. And I'll be here with the next story, the next voice, the next quiet flame. Until then, keep giving, keep loving, and keep carrying the light, even when no one's watching.